My name is Karyn Skultety. I'm the executive director at Open House, and I'm originally from Colorado, and now I live in San Francisco. I identify as bisexual, and like many people who are bi, I came out a little bit later. So I actually came out in graduate school. I was about 25, which seems late, I guess, in comparison. I grew up in Colorado where things have changed somewhat, but it's still a pretty conservative place. And I would say that LGBT people, at least in my life and the way I was raised, my parents weren't particularly discriminatory, but those people weren't visible. I didn't meet them. I did, but I didn't know I was meeting them. My parents didn't have friends from that community. They didn't talk about that community, our community. And so I just had a total lack of awareness. And I think I didn't do very much thinking about sexuality and who I might be until a little bit later in my life when I was in Western Massachusetts in Northampton and started to meet a lot of LGBT people and women and started to be more aware of my attractions and my feelings. For me, coming out, and this is common for a lot of bisexual people, was surprising in that I think it surprised my family and my friends and my people who'd known me a long time more. And there was sort of a reaction from my family of like, well, just don't do that. Just pay attention to being attracted to men and things should be fine. But it was very painful. My mom in particular, who has come a long way since, but at the time had a very negative reaction and really had been one of my primary emotional supports. There was a point in which we actually took some time away from our relationship because I sort of decided I couldn't have someone in my life who couldn't support me. And it was incredibly painful and incredibly scary. So I was lucky in that I was surrounded by a strong LGBT community in graduate school. And I had friends and other out people in my life telling me that there was no way to erase this. There was no way to make it go away. And that in fact, I was like finding a truer, more authentic version of myself, and that felt really important. I'm a little bit young to have full memories of the AIDS crisis or to have fully understood what was going on, and I wasn't in San Francisco or New York or some of the major urban areas where it was happening. So I can tell you that it's been profound for me, okay, profound for me that working now at Open House, where I work with older LGBT seniors, many of whom were here in San Francisco in the AIDS crisis, that this crisis has not gone away. The loss, the trauma, the experience of feeling like the world would literally stand by and watch people die is alive in people today. I'm trained as a psychologist, and so if I just closed my eyes and listened, and this must happen at least 3 to 4 times a week, to the stories and trauma that people who lived through that time are in, I would think that they were talking about a trauma that had happened 3 or 4 months ago, as opposed to now, 20, 30 years ago. There's so much healing left to be done for our community. There's so much isolation that remains today. Both for long-term survivors with HIV, but also the people who were caregivers, the people who are loved ones, who might be HIV negative, but who are carrying the trauma that this was for our community with them every day. I choose to work here because Open House, we provide housing services and community building for older LGBT people. And for me, this is such a unique opportunity. In some ways, the LGBT movement has moved quicker than other civil rights movements. And one of the amazing things about that is it means that people today, like me and people younger than me, we have the opportunity to be meeting, working with, talking to literally the founders of the movement. What an incredible gift that is. And while I think our current political climate is pretty shitty, I will say that I do think that the younger generations are more open right now to learning from those activist heroes than they've ever been. So to be at a place where I personally get to interact with that kind of wisdom every day and that kind of perspective is amazing. But to know that we have a chance to take those voices, which often get ignored because of ageism, because of people forgetting to value older people, and make those voices again central in our lives and central in our fight for social justice. I couldn't be doing more important work, I couldn't be doing more inspiring work, and I couldn't be doing work that I feel more grateful for. I think the number one thing that we can do to be respectful is to shut up and to listen, and to slow down and to listen, and to stop and notice who's around us and who's missing. We had a group of volunteers here from Google X, lovely, lovely kids recently, some of whom have gone on and become ongoing volunteers with us. But when we asked them before they went up and had lunch with some of our seniors, how many LGBT people do you know over the age of 50? The answer for all of them was 0. And I think the reality is, of course, they know LGBT people over 50, but it's almost like me in Colorado. Of course, there were LGBT people around me, but I think ageism in this case makes it so that those people become invisible to younger people. So it's up to younger generations to make visible those contributions. It's up to younger generations to open their eyes and see older people, and then to ask themselves, what's the value of that perspective? What's the power that perspective could bring in my life? And most people, once they are exposed, it doesn't take long to see how powerful and impressive that can be.